Now's the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there. And we've got to lead it.
The following program is brought to you by friends and partners of End Time Headlines.
All right, what's going on, guys? This is End Time Headline, and it is Friday, May 6th. At this time, I want to welcome you guys to the broadcast. If this is your first time joining us here on Facebook Live, in the comment section below, let us know that you're new to the broadcast and where you guys are joining us from. Again, I'm Ricky Scaparro, the founder, the pastor, the voice of End Time Headlines. This is news and headlines from a prophetic perspective. We want to welcome everyone who else is going to be joining us today on the rebroadcast of this on YouTube and on Rumble and through the podcast. For you guys on Facebook Live, we had to come back on because the mic was cut. It was there was no sound, but we made sure it's working now. So you should be able to hear me loud and clear now. So again, today, we've got an interesting topic lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about blood moon and other events coinciding with the anniversary of Israel becoming a nation. This is going to be an intriguing topic. If you guys like these kind of updates, then you're going to enjoy today's broadcast. So Luke 21:25, guys, we're going to go right into this. Luke 21:25. That's going to be our foundational scripture for this. Again, if you are one of our veteran listeners, veteran viewers, this is something you've heard us teach on many times. Please be patient with those who are new to the broadcast. And they may not understand these things like you do. So we just ask that you be patient with us. And look, it's always good to sharpen your iron. Iron sharpens iron. So we're going to sharpen that sword a little bit better if you've already know this, and that's okay. Luke 21:25, and there shall be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars. We're going to talk about all three of these today. And upon the earth, there will be distress of nations with perplexity. Remember that when we get into this thing, and the seas and the waves roaring. Again, that's Luke 21:25. Genesis 1:14. Genesis 1:14. We're going to go to the Torah. That's the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. We're going to go to the first book. This is the book of Genesis, even all the way at the beginning. When God created the heavens and the earth, he spoke to us something that we need to talk about today. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night. That's the practicality of the sun and the moon and the stars, is to give light to divide the day and the night. But he takes it a little bit further. So hang with this. And let them, what? Let them, the lights in the firmament of the heavens, the sun, the moon, and stars. He says, let them be for signs and seasons, for days and years. Now, again, I've underlined signs and seasons. The Greek, this is Hebrew. In the Old Testament, it was written in Hebrew and portions of it written in Aramaic. The New Testament was written in Greek. So in this verse, in this chapter here in Genesis 1 and this verse of 14, there's 2 Hebrew words here that we need to home in on to give you a better understanding of Luke 21. And that is the words signs and seasons. The Hebrew words for sign is a word meaning a signal, a beacon, a monument, an omen, or what we would know as a harbinger or evidence. And then there's the Hebrew word modim, which is seasons, and it literally means a signal, a flag, a beacon, monument, or a festival or literal appointed times. Let me say that again, because I went and read the same thing twice. Again, the word signs can mean a signal or an omen or a harbinger. The word seasons is modim in Hebrew, and it literally means festivals or literal appointed times. So listen to what I'm saying here. God was telling us all the way back in Genesis at the creation of the sun, moon, and stars. He was telling us these are not just placed out here for luminaries for practical division of night and day, but they are also put there for signs and seasons, or watch this, follow me, for those who have discernment and understanding of these things. They will see these things and they will comprehend it and they will understand it. If you want an example of that, you go to the book of in the New Testament. When Yeshua was born in Bethlehem, your Bible says there was a group of individuals who knew where he was born because they saw something in the heavens and they knew it to be a signal, a beacon, God getting their attention in the heavens. And it was how many believes it was a sign? Come on. The star of Bethlehem was a sign that the Messiah had been born and he fulfilled the prophecies that were spoken of him. So it was it was a sign that took place at an appointed time, or what we could say at the fullness of time. The Son of Man, the Son of God, was born in the flesh. Then we go even further when Jesus was in his earthly ministry and he began to expound on the signs of the end of the age and that judgment was about to come to Jerusalem before the destruction of the temple by the Romans in 70 AD. All this is going to play into this today, guys. So really listen carefully what I'm saying today. What did he tell them? He looked at the Pharisees and the religious leaders of his day who had no discernment. And he said, you hypocrites, you can look at the sky and know when it's about to storm, but you can't see the signs around you, the harbingers that are taking place. And you can't discern the times and the seasons in which we are in. That's what he's talking about here, guys. So let me show you something here. This month, there's some interesting cosmic events that are going to take place. This is an actual article from AccuWeather.com. Blood moon in May could be 2022's top astronomy event. Now, I said astronomy, not astrology, because people will lose their mind over anybody teaching about what I'm teaching you today. And especially, and Christians are some of the worst people about it. My God, he's getting us into astrology. He's getting us into worshiping the sun and the moon and the stars. And that is not what we're doing. We're not emphasizing that. We're not telling you to worship the cosmos or the stars or the heavens or read your horoscope. I am reading to you the Word of God and the Bible. But nevertheless, watch this, the sun, the earth, and the moon will align to create an, quote, eerie sight in the middle of this month. And I'm getting ready to show you the date when it takes place. And it happens to fall on an appointed time. watch this, all the while a meteor shower is also taking place, and more. So let's get to this article. I want to pull this up and read this to you. There is what's called this, and this just on Thursday, May 5th, which was yesterday, and to now, which is the 6th of May here on Friday, there was what was called the Eta Aquarid, I hope I pronounced that right, meteor shower. Now what's interesting about this, I'm going to give you some more information about this meteor shower that's not just a ordinary quote unquote meteor shower. But then what is being deemed as, quote, a top astronomy event and could be the top one of 2022 will be a blood moon that will be visible in the sky of North America in the middle of this month. And it just so happens that it will take place on the night of Sunday, May 15th into May 16th.
The second year in a row, the full superflower blood moon will be back during the month of May. Last year, it was toward the end of the month. This year, it will be on Sunday, May 15th. Let's break down that name. Full, that's obvious. The entire moon is lit. Super, meaning we're at perigee in the monthly orbit, so closest to the moon, and that makes it appear bigger and brighter than normal. Flower, that's the name most commonly given to May's full moon because all the flowers are in bloom this time of the year. And the blood moon, and that's because the moon will appear red as we are in Earth's shadow during a total lunar eclipse. Now, something really cool about this particular eclipse, the time. You will not have to stay up late or get up early. This will start at 7:57 in the evening on Sunday, May 15th. It reaches a peak around 10:11 p.m. as we will be fully in the shadow, and it will end a little bit before 1 o'clock in the morning.
Now, why is that interesting? Here's why. Because that just so happens, let me pull this back up. The reason why on this graphic here that you see on your screen, for you guys that are watching the visual display of this, you'll see there's a blood moon here on your left, and then there is the Israeli flag and people holding up these Israeli flags. Here is why we did that. It's interesting that this blood moon is going to be visible on the 15th into the 16th. It just so happens that just coincides. Now, depending on which calendar that you go by, because remember the Jews, what like right now is the 6th of Friday the 6th, but they're like 12 hours ahead of us. So it goes into the next day. So this blood moon it coincides in the same time frame that the commemoration is taking place of the National Day of Israel, when Israel declared their independence on, ready for this, May 14th, May 15th, again, our calendar May 14th, their calendar May 15th, 1948. At midnight, our calendar May 14th, 1948, the provisional government of Israel proclaimed a new state of Israel. On the same date, the United States, in the person of President Truman, recognized the provisional Jewish government as the de facto authority of the Jewish state, which also fulfilled the prophecy given by Isaiah the prophet in Isaiah 66, 7 and 8. Quote, before she goes into labor, she gives birth. That's interesting. Birth, labor, birth pangs. Where have I heard that before? Oh, yeah, that's right. Matthew 24, Luke 21. But nevertheless, before she goes into labor, she gives birth. Before the pains come upon her, she delivers a son. Who has ever heard of such a thing? Who has ever seen such things? Can a country be born in a day, or a nation be brought forth in a moment? Yet no sooner is Zion in labor than she gives birth to her children. The answer is yes, and Israel was born in a day on, again, May 14th, 15th, 1948. So that's interesting. So we have a blood moon, which again, according to many who have studied this longer than most of us has been alive, have come to the conclusion, and I don't have time, it would take me an hour to develop this, but there has been many wars, disasters, famines, pestilences, and all kinds of crazy things that has just so happened to coincide with blood moons and solar eclipses. Now, typically, blood moons are very significant to the nation of Israel if a blood moon is visible in Israel. But, so you say, well, then why are we talking about this? Because this blood moon is not visible in Israel. Right, but it's going to be visible in North America, who was influential in bringing and help bringing forth Israel as a nation on May 14th, May 15th. And here we have this blood moon, who, again, not my words, astronomers are saying could be the event of 2022. Interesting. Oh, but wait, let's go a little bit further. Then this meteor shower that they were talking about. Remember that? I was just talking about this. According to research that I just happened to find, or actually someone sent us this to me, and then I researched a little bit more. These shooting stars that is going to be visible coming down to the in the heavens this month are actually remnants of a famous comet called Halley's Comet. Stars from Halley's Comet, or this Eta Aquarid meteor shower, will be visible Wednesday night early into Thursday morning. So this is already transpired, but watch this. And you say, okay, what's the big deal about that? Well, let's talk about that. Here's what's interesting about that. Again, let me refresh your memory. According to many traditions, scholars, people have studied this longer than I have been alive, and you have probably been alive, have noted that planetary alignments, solar eclipses, blood moons, any of these events of this happenstance many times are harbingers or prophetic foreshadowings of things to come. Let me talk about that. These often appear several years before a major war or disaster. Again, all of our regular viewers and listeners, you've heard me talk about this. Again, bear with this for the new people. And you need a refresher, because all this is coming together. In ancient history, nations would even decide to go to war or not to go to war based on these signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. One of the first comets ever to be named was discovered, ready, by Sir Edmund Halley, where we get Halley's Comet. Let me give you a little bit of an interesting history about Halley's Comet. It reappears every 78 years. Researchers note that this comet appeared. Now you got to I want you to really pay attention to me right here. This comet appeared in 12 BC at the time Herod was extending the temple platform in Jerusalem. This same comet also reappeared in 66 AD, which happened to be 4 years prior to the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. Somebody say Jerusalem and the temple. In the 20th century, this same comet, Halley's Comet, streaked through the heavens in 1910, which was 4 years prior to the outbreak of World War I. And then it was seen again in 1986. Ready for this? 4 years before the Persian Gulf War began. Now, you say, well, that's nice, but what has that got to do? Well, isn't it interesting that here you have a blood moon that is coinciding with the anniversary of the commemoration of Israel being born as a nation, and it's going to be visible over North America, who was influential in accelerating this to be fulfilled in prophecy. Then you have the remnants of Halley's Comet that just so happened to be around when the temple was being erected by Herod, and it was around 4 years prior and seen 4 years prior. And by the way, Josephus, the historian, talks about this in Antiquities of the Jews, an historical account of this, eyewitness account of it. It was visible and seen during the same time frame as the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Oh, and here we are, where we have the remnants of this same comet. It's circled back around, and we have this, the remnants of this, or the stars that are associated with this comet. And here we have a lawmaker in Israel that is calling for a third temple to be built in Jerusalem. Are you kidding me? You can't make this stuff up, guys. Yesterday, Knesset member Itamar Ben Gvir entered the Temple Mount on Israel's 74th Independence Day. During his visit, the Knesset member said, and I quote, "The time has come to build a Jewish synagogue on the Temple Mount." Now look, if you're new to the broadcast today, I can assure you for months, even a couple years now, at least I know 2 years, we have been warning and we have been telling our listeners and viewers to keep your eyes on Jerusalem and Israel and watch for this temple to be brought forth. Because again, biblically speaking, Revelation 11 says it's not a matter of if, but when a third temple will be built in Jerusalem in the tribulation period. But the Jews are preparing for this. The Knesset is preparing for this. The members of the Temple Institute are preparing for this. The modern Jewish Sanhedrin is preparing for this. They've got the articles ready. They've got the furnishings ready. They've got everything lined up. And they're, watch this, ready? They're waiting for the appointed time to bring it forth. And at least, and here is yet another individual in Israel that has come forth and said, now is the time to build the temple. He went on to say that, quote, building the third temple is a commandment incumbent upon the Jewish people as written. And he quotes the book of Exodus. Quote, Exodus 25:8, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. Before ascending the Mount, Ben Gvir emphasized the importance of visiting the Temple Mount, writing, quote, Jews ascending the Temple Mount today proves that Hamas is an organization of pushovers that will easily surrender. On Israel's 74th Independence Day, it's important that government officials remember that we are an independent nation. Israel has prevented any effort to build a temple on the holy site for fear of Arab backlash. Instead, the Jewish pilgrims visiting the mount are forced to settle for silent prayer, and an act recently allowed by the police station there. So, but despite the opposition and the uproar, more and more rabbis, mystics, Knesset members, and other leaders of the Jewish community there in Israel, again, listen to me, they are pushing for this third temple to be built in Jerusalem. But I get, it's just all coincidental that here we have this push for this temple in Jerusalem that just so happens it coincides. Oh, and by the way, do you know the time that meteor shower came through? Oh, that's right. It happened during the same time frame that this Knesset member opened his mouth and said the need for a third temple is now, and the remnants of this meteor shower that was taking place in the heavens is that of, or it's connected to Halley's Comet, the same comet that has come back around, was seen during the Temple Mount erected by Herod and 4 years prior to the destruction of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And we have a blood moon that's visible on the same time frame that Israel was rebirthed as a nation in over North America, who again was one of the greatest assets or greatest initiatives, people behind it, the president behind it, that pushed this forward for it to be fulfilled. Oh, and by the way, and it just so happens that the time frame of this, while this is happening, many experts are saying that, quote, we are on the precipice of World War III. And this is not just one headline. Everything that's going on with Russia, what's going on with Ukraine. And by the way, there is now fears that China is preparing for an invasion against Taiwan. We posted about that on endtimeheadlines.org, endtimeheadlines.com. Remember, guys, I'm trying to put all these pieces together for you as best as I know how. This comet, Halley's Comet, was in the sky 4 years prior to World War I. And isn't it interesting that we're in a climate right now where many experts are saying that we are on the very brink of the Third World War, all happening. Then you've got crazy stuff going on, like the worst bird flu outbreak ever is underway in the United States, with over 37 million of these birds dead.
Chinese residents aren't the only ones in lockdown.
Yeah, farmers across the U.S. and Europe are keeping their organic and free-range chickens inside amidst the worst outbreak of avian influenza in years. More than 35 million birds have been wiped out this year alone in one of the worst bird flu outbreaks in U.S. history. In France, government officials are temporarily requiring farmers to keep their chickens indoors, as roughly 16 million birds have been culled due to the outbreak. Infections have also been reported in other European nations, including Britain, Italy, and Spain.
Joining us now is Dr. William Schaffner. He's a professor of infectious diseases at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Dr. Schaffner, welcome. It's always great to have you with us. So can you explain exactly why U.S. officials are encouraging farmers to keep their chickens inside, and French officials are going so far as to require it?
Yeah, so Tanya, influenza viruses obviously can affect birds, not just domestic poultry, but wild birds. And the wild birds are the great distributors of this virus during their migratory flights. And so the authorities are saying keep those domestic fowl indoors so that these migratory birds don't come down and mingle with your chickens and ducks and geese and spread the virus to them and then fly off. So we're trying to protect the agricultural industry, trying to protect those domestic ducks, chickens, turkeys, and the like.
Dr. Schaffner, the CDC, as you know, confirmed a case of the bird flu in a Colorado man last week. This is the first person in the U.S. and only the second person ever to test positive for the virus. Any reason why people should be concerned here?
Not really, because what we know so far is that these bird flu viruses are not readily transmitted to people and certainly not from person to person. There is the occasional person who has very close contact with infected birds where this virus can go, for example, from a chicken to an individual and cause illness in that person. But there's essentially no risk of spread to other people at the present time. So the World Health Organization is watching this around the globe, and if anything changes, we'll be the first to know.
So, Doctor, in terms of curbing the spread of the outbreak, is it just as simple as keeping the chickens inside the coop?
Well, that's the main thing. Now, if your flock does become infected, it can produce disease and obviously be the source of infection for flocks in the neighborhood. So then all those birds have to be put to rest. And that, of course, is not good for the birds, and it's not good for the farmer either.
Now, this is in the middle of fertilizer shortages that's also plaguing farmers in the United States of America. So you got, oh, come on. Is this too much for you guys? Let me pull this back up. Let me remind you here. Luke 21:25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and upon the earth. Let me talk about this. Distress of nations with perplexity. Guys, this literally means in the Greek, chaos on earth, uncertainty, confusion, disorientation, anxiety, fear, worry, upheaval, civil unrest. Hello, Supreme Court. Hello, food shortages, famine, drought, empty shelves, distress of nations, plural tense. All this is happening. Oh, and let me finish with this. And while this is all going on, the stock market, by some, is crashing. 1,000-point wipeout yesterday, or some saying is the beginning of a historic financial nightmare. And could be the beginning of something far worse than what we saw in 2008 with the, quote, Great Recession.
Now to Wall Street. The market's set to open this morning shortly after the new jobs report will be released, following the worst day for investors in almost 2 years. Chief Business Correspondent Rebecca Jarvis is at the New York Stock Exchange. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Michael. And that sell-off continues this morning with stocks opening lower following the April jobs report showing 428,000 jobs were created for the month. Unemployment constant at 3.6% and wages over the last 12 months up 5.5%. But that is only part of the story. The other part is historic inflation. Prices climbing 8.5% over the last year. That means prices are moving up faster than wages are. And Wall Street is aware that the Federal Reserve is on a course of action now intended to try to bring those prices under control. That course of action will mean the economy slows down. The question is, will it mean there is a recession? And some believe that that could be out in the future. It's something that Wall Street has contended with now for the last handful of weeks. It's why the market so far this year is down about 13.5%. That is the S&P S&P 500, which is the thing that's reflected in most retirement savings accounts, meaning if you had $1,000 in the S&P 500 at the start of this year, today it would be worth about $865, which is why, Cecilia, you invest for the long term.
We're talking about global here. We're talking about something that's going to go out. It's going to stretch far beyond the United States of America. Oh, and by the way, in case you didn't know this, we right now are in, remember what I told you? Appointed times, seasons, right? Appointed times. We right now are in a time frame called a shemitah cycle. Now, what is that? Shemitah is the last year of a 7-year cycle in the Jewish calendar, has several times in the past brought immense financial hardships in the world. Let's talk about that for a second. As soon as the Jews settled in the Holy Land, they began to count and observe cycle or 7-year cycles. Every cycle would culminate in a sabbatical year. Again, what are we talking about, guys? Let's see if you're paying attention. Times and seasons, right? This is known as shemitah, or literally it means to release. Now let me give you some interesting history about this shemitah cycle. The year following the destruction of the Second Holy Temple was the first year of a 7-year sabbatical cycle. In the Jewish calendar, counting from creation, this was the year 3829 on the secular calendar. By counting sevens from that point forward, we then come to the next shemitah year, which took place again 5782, and it runs all the way till September 25th of this year, 2022. Oh, and listen to this. The largest Wall Street crash of 1987 happened during this shemitah cycle. Also, the bond market carnage of 1994 took place in a shemitah cycle. The 9/11 terror attack happened a day after the shemitah cycle in 2001. And listen to this, and Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy, and the subsequent 777, I said 777 point fall of the Dow Jones in 2008, which again was the beginning of the Great Recession, also took place on the shemitah cycle. And listen, my friends, we are now in another shemitah cycle. For those who have discernment of the times and seasons in which we are in, you need to be listening. You need to be paying attention to this. You need to be watching. You need to be praying. You need to be interceding, because again, Jesus said, for those who are able to receive it, not everybody is. But listen, for the sons and the daughters of Issachar who have discernment of the times and seasons in which we're in, and they see these things happening, they know that when they begin to see all these things, they know enough to look up and lift up their heads, for their redemption is drawing near. And again, that's Luke 21:28. And again, this is something that I wanted to get across to you guys to inform you of what's going on. Again, endtimeheadlines.org, endtimeheadlines.com. Don't forget to download our free app guide. It's available on Apple. It's available on Android. You're listening again by podcast, by Spotify. That is End Time Headlines. Just go type in End Time Headlines. You can get it on Apple. You can get it on Android. It's free. It's for your convenience. It's to be a blessing to you. You're going to keep up with all of our headlines. You're going to keep up with our podcast. You can be able to watch or listen at your leisure, and it's all there for your convenience. And as always, guys, We want to give you the opportunity, if this ministry is a continual source of information, revelation, and blessing to you and your family on a weekly basis, we want to give you the opportunity. Listen, you pray about it. If this ministry blesses you, again, informs you, equips you continually, you pray about what the Lord would have you to do. We ask that you would prayerfully consider becoming a monthly partner. What that does, it helps us to remain strong and active year after year to continue doing what we're called to do, and that's reach people around the world with the gospel, with the free app, the free podcast, the free website, the updates, the prophetic updates, the equipping message. Everything is free for your convenience. We are feeding the sheep. All we ask is that you pray about what the Lord would have you to do, and you could do it two different ways. You can give electronically through the app or through the main website, or you can go through check or money order, and you can do that at End Time Headlines, P.O. Box 1391, and that's Monroe, Georgia 30655. That's going to be our mailing address. As always, thank you guys for taking the time out today to be a part of our broadcast, to be a part of this session today. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Continue to pray for us as we continue to pray for you. And we're going to sign off for today. Have a great, blessed, and safe weekend. And we will be back on here, Lord willing, on Monday to bring you to start out a new week of podcasting to keep you and get you up to date with the latest news and headlines from a prophetic perspective. God bless you guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the End Time Headlines podcast. We pray that you've been blessed and equipped by today's message. For more information about how you can help partner with our ministry, please visit endtimeheadlines.org.